So what we're going to go over today is the first modern philosopher, René Descartes. René Descartes is a French philosopher, and he is living around the time of Galileo and around that time of Luther. Okay, so he is going to contribute to this break, and he's going to contribute maybe the most, especially philosophically speaking. He's going to contribute the most to the break from the past, from the thinking of Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas. So we see and from René Descartes, he wrote this book called Meditations. And in Meditation 1, we see the goal of René Descartes when he says, "It is now some years since I detected how many were the false beliefs that I had from my earliest youth admitted as true." And he goes on and he's going to tell us what his goal is in writing this book. "And from the time I was convinced that I must once for all seriously undertake to rid myself of all the opinions which I had formerly accepted, and commence to build anew from the foundation, if I wanted to establish any firm and permanent structure in the sciences." So, let me just say this. René Descartes is a serious mathematician. Okay? He's a scientist. He is also a faithful Catholic who believes in the doctrines of the Catholic Church and of course of God's existence. And what is under attack at this point in Descartes' life is the Catholic Church. Okay? All those religious doctrines of the Catholic Church are being questioned. Part of the reason that they're being questioned is because Aristotle is being questioned. Okay? Aristotle is now a philosopher that is suspect to a lot of other philosophers and Christians. Okay? So Descartes, being a faithful Catholic and also being a mathematician and a scientist, he likes the idea that he can know things. Okay? But this new philosophy, I mean, these new questions that are coming, they are making suspect that anybody can know anything. Because what's happening at this point as well is a revival of some of the skeptical Greek philosophers, of the ancient skeptics, as well as just the questions and the doubts that are being raised about Aristotle. And so there's a lot of uncertainty happening. And Descartes wants some certainty because he wants to continue doing his science. He wants to continue doing his math. He wants to continue believing in the things that he believes as a Catholic. Okay? He wants that. Okay? Those things are in his life, and he doesn't want to give those up because people are questioning him. Because what the skeptical arguments will do, and what their goal is, these arguments from skeptics, is to undermine those things and say that you can't know those things. You can't know God exists. You can't know that your soul is immortal. You can't know that that knowledge you're getting from your sense experience when you look through the telescope is real. Okay, you can't know any of this stuff. You can't know any of these scientific conclusions. Okay, Descartes is trying to build a firm foundation. That's what he says right here. I wanted to establish any firm and permanent structure in the sciences. That is his goal, to establish a firm foundation in the sciences. Okay, and he goes on. Today then, since very opportunely for the plan I have in view, I have delivered my mind from every care, and am happily agitated by no passions. And since I have procured for myself an assured leisure and a peaceable retirement, I will at last seriously and freely address myself to the general upheaval of all my former opinions. So what is Descartes doing? he wants to get rid of. This is what he's saying. He says he is going to try to get rid of all of his former opinions. He wants to start new. Why does he want to start new? Because he wants he wants the foundation of his philosophy to be rock solid. And apparently, he doesn't think it's rock solid right now. Okay? So, from this, you can see that Descartes is not a true believer in Aristotle. He's not a true believer in thinking that sense experience is the beginning of knowledge and you could accurately and 100% trust your senses. Okay? Because he wants to get rid of all these former opinions and start new. And we see that he does this, continuing on in Meditation 1. Descartes says, "Now for this object it is not necessary that I should show that all these are false. I will perhaps never arrive at this end." So he says, all my former things first of all, he's calling all of the things that he knows at this point opinions. Okay, now let me remind you, Descartes has been to university, he's been to school, and he has been instructed in the philosophy of Aristotle. He has been instructed in the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay, so he knows these philosophers. We can even, listen, you got to understand the level and the depth of knowledge that René Descartes most likely had in Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay, it was probably a level, because you got to understand, those works were written in Latin, especially St. Thomas Aquinas was, but Aristotle's was translated into the ancient Latin language. And Descartes, for these people, this was a second language to them. This is something they grew up speaking, writing. And so Descartes has a firm, and he has a really deep knowledge of these medieval philosophers that were relying on Aristotle. So he knows things. But he's calling all that knowledge that he has up to this point opinions. And you tell me, is that a compliment to the people of the past? No, it's not a compliment. All that knowledge that he acquired from all those studies, he's saying it's all opinion. He's not going to even give it the credibility of being true. Okay? So this is why he said, now for this object, it is not necessary that I should show that all these are false. And so he's saying is, I'm going to act like all of my things I know right now are opinions and that I can't trust them. See, and he says, it's not necessary that I show they're false. Yeah, it's really convenient that it's not necessary that he shows they're false, because that would require a lot of work to do that. It's one thing to just ignore somebody's arguments and their conclusions. Anybody could do that. That's easy. But if you're going to refute their arguments, that's a whole nother ballgame right there. So Descartes at least admitting this. He's like, listen, I'm not going to refute these people. I'm just going to forget. I'm just going to act like it's all opinion. Okay, that's what he's saying right here. And here we see it. We're continuing with Meditation 1. I'm skipping a few lines from the line I just read. And Descartes says, if I am able to find in each one some reason to doubt, this will suffice to justify my rejecting the whole. So what Descartes is going to do, if he can find in all the things that he knows right now some area where he can cast doubt upon it, then he's going to throw it away. He's going to throw away the whole thing. Because Descartes' a philosopher. He's going to be looking at the philosophical principles that he has been taught up to this point. And if he could find any reason to doubt, then he's going to reject the whole. Because if you can doubt someone's a philosophical principle, other smaller things are built on top philosophical principles. Okay? So if you can cast doubt on some general philosophical statement, then you can cast doubt on everything that relies on that statement. You're going to see this right now from Descartes. Now, what is Descartes going to deal with? What philosophical principle is he going to attack first? It's going to be from Aristotle. What was Aristotle's whole basis of his philosophy? Knowledge comes from sense experience. You can trust your eyes. Knowledge begins there. You see things, and then you see that they function a certain way. Then you start developing definitions and things like this. This is Aristotle. So this is what Descartes' going for first. He is going to deal, and he's going to cast doubt on sense experience. Okay? So the idea that you see things and you don't have to give an argument when, like, the computer's in front of your face right now. I mean, you don't have to give an argument for that. It's right there in front of your face. This is what Descartes is going to cast doubt on, that you can trust your eyes. So, moving on to optical illusions in Meditation 1. Descartes is going to talk about some of these common ways in which we may be, there may be some deception going on with our sense experience. But by sense experience, what do I mean? Your eyes, your ears, smell, taste, things like this. This is why he says, but it may be that although the sense sometimes deceives us concerning things which are hardly perceptible or very far away, there are yet many others to be met with as to which we cannot reasonably have any doubt, although we may recognize them by their means. And let me get to the important part here. And how could I deny that these things, these hands and this body are mine, were it not perhaps that I compare myself to certain persons, devoid of sense? In other words, he's saying, can I doubt that these are my hands? These are my arm. This is my arm right here. This is my head. Unless I compare myself to certain persons devoid of sense, whose cerebella are so troubled and clouded by the violent vapors of black bile that they constantly assure us that they think they are kings when in fact they're really quite poor. Okay, so these optical illusions, Descartes is not putting a lot of stock in. Okay, there's a lot of different types of optical illusions. What Descartes is saying in this area is that these aren't strong enough for him to doubt his sense experience. Okay, so if you look at the sun, well, you don't look at the sun, but let's say you look at the moon, right? Or let's say that, not even that. Let's say you look at a mountain or a hill, and you're far away and it looks small, but then as you walk closer, it becomes bigger. Okay, that kind of stuff is not good enough to doubt your sense experience, according to René Descartes. Okay, but let's get to something serious then, because he's going to find a reason to doubt his sense experience. Remember, Descartes is trying to start anew right here. He's trying to build a philosophy that has a firm foundation by which he could build all of the science on. Okay, so he's going to get to this dream argument. Descartes says, at the same time, I must remember that I am a man, and that consequently I am in the habit of sleeping. And in my dreams, representing to myself the same things, or sometimes even less probable things, than do those who are insane in their waking moments. How often has it happened to me that in the night I dreamt that I found myself in this particular place, that I was dressed and seated near the fire, whilst in reality I was lying undressed in bed? I mean, has this happened to you in your dreams? He was dreaming that he was in some place, and then he woke up, and where was he at? He was lying undressed in bed. I mean, when's the last time you had a dream where, you thought it was real? Right? And then you woke up and you realize, oh man, I'm glad that dream wasn't real. I really thought it was happening right now. Right? I mean, I have one of these type of dreams like every few weeks probably, where I actually think it's something real is happening. Right? The one I usually talk about in classes is, it happened maybe a couple years ago. Like, I never watched zombie movies or anything like this, but I had a dream, or like a nightmare maybe, and my kids were like waking me up and they're like telling me to go to the door. Somebody's at the door at nighttime, and so I go to the door and I look out the peephole and it's a zombie. And listen, I don't believe in zombies, okay? But in the dream, it looked like a zombie. And it was real to me, right? And so at this somewhere in this point, I woke up. And I remember when I woke up, I had to wait a couple seconds and like tell myself, "Whoa, was that? What the heck is going on here? Was that real?" It didn't take that long, but still, I was like fooled still for like a second or two, whether this was real or not. That's how real the dream was. Right? We're all deceived like this in dreams. Always. Happens all the time. But here's what Descartes says. Just think about that for a second. Hold on to that. The fact that you admit right now that you are deceived in your dreams. I see so evidently that there are no certain indications by which we may clearly distinguish wakefulness from sleep, that I am lost in astonishment. What Descartes is saying is, listen, now that we're thinking about it a little bit, what's the difference between being awake and being asleep in a dream? What's the difference? Can you prove? Give me some proof here. How do you know what you're in right now is not a dream? Well, you may say, well, you know what? I'll pinch myself right now. Okay, that hurt a little bit, so I'm not dreaming. Well, don't you feel that in your dream? You don't feel pain in your dreams? Right? Of course you feel pain in your dreams. Everybody's felt some pain in their dreams before. Right? I've had pain in my dreams. So that's not good proof that we're not dreaming right now. Well, what else? What else happens in your dreams? Do you see things in your dreams? You see things right when you're awake, but you also see things when you're dreaming. Do you smell things when you're awake, but not in your dreams? No. I remember if you pay attention in your dreams next time, I remember smelling things in my dreams. So what's the difference between dreams and being awake? What's the proof? Give me some proof that you are not dreaming right now. You can't. That's the point. You can't give any proof that you're not in a dream right now. This is why Descartes, he's lost in astonishment. And my astonishment is such that it is almost capable of persuading me that I now dream. You may be in a dream right now. Everything that happens when you're awake happens in the dream. Descartes is getting some success here. Okay. Things happen in your dreams and you wake up and then you tell yourself, boy, you know what? I'm glad that dream wasn't true. I'm glad I wasn't really getting hit. Or, I'm glad my arm wasn't caught between, a rock in the ground. It's not smashed. I'm glad that's not happening. But in the dream, you thought that was happening. Okay? So your senses were deceiving you. It happens all the time when you dream. When you're dreaming, you think something is happening, you're seeing something, but it's fake. It's not real. Your eyes are deceiving you in your dreams all the time. Okay? Your ears are deceiving you in your dreams all the time. Your taste is, I've eaten things in my dreams before, so your taste is even deceiving you. It's not really happening. So not only are our sense experience is deceived in dreams and being awake, but you can't even tell the difference between being awake and dreaming. You can't even tell the difference. So what we have here is the criteria that Descartes said in the beginning of this. If he can find any reason to doubt, then he's going to doubt because he wants a firm foundation. Well, did he find a reason? Yes, he found a reason. Right here in these dreams, just thinking about dreams. To doubt what? To doubt your sense experience. Your sense experience, your eyes, touch, hear, it is deceived when you're dreaming. And to add something else on top, you don't even know that you're not dreaming right now. Right? This could be a dream. That's how deep the deception could be with your sense experience. So can you trust your sense experience to start doing science and experiments like Aristotle thought? No, of course not. Don't start looking at the tree and things like this and looking at it grow. This may be a dream. Your eyes deceived you already. We already showed that. What Descartes notices, moving on, and we're still in meditation 1, is that not everything is thrown out with this dream argument. Your sense experience, now we can doubt our sense experience that it's accurate. But even when we're dreaming, 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 plus 4 equals 8. It seems that even in dreams, mathematics is still true, right? So even when you're dreaming, math still seems to be true. So there's some certainty there with mathematics, even when you're dreaming. But Descartes is not satisfied with that. Descartes wants to doubt everything. Why? He's trying to take away all the things that he knows so that he could start new, so he can build on a firm foundation. And so what's left is math. Math still seems to be certain even when you're dreaming. So Descartes is going to introduce this evil demon or this evil genius. Descartes says, "Nevertheless, I have long had fixed in my mind the belief that an all-powerful God existed, by whom I have been created such as I am." And then he's going to continue on, and here he's going to posit this evil genius. "I will then suppose not that God, who is supremely good and the fountain of truth, but some evil genius, not less powerful than deceitful, has employed his whole energies in deceiving me. I will consider that the heavens, the earth, colors, figures, sound, and all the other external things are nothing but the illusions and dreams of which this genius has availed himself in order to lay traps for my credulity." Okay, so Descartes, he's really in fantasy world right now. He is saying perhaps there is this evil genius who is intent on deceiving me. So what? So now I can't even trust mathematics. Okay, so when I'm doing 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that seems to be true even when I'm dreaming, now I can't even trust that because this evil genius may be laying traps for my credulity. Right? This evil genius may be deceiving me even in mathematics. So with the dream argument, we got rid of sense experience. We could doubt our sense experience. And with this evil genius argument, we can now doubt mathematics as well. And so, moving on to meditation 2, Descartes, after now doubting everything, so in other words, when you doubt sense experience, you are taking out the foundation. Okay, so everything, all the beliefs and the things that Descartes knows based on this idea that he could trust his sense experience, that also is taken out. Okay, so all the things that Descartes believed based on the idea that he could trust his sense experience. When sense experience goes, so does all that other stuff. Okay, because when you take out the foundation, the rest of the building must crumble as well. And this is what Descartes' goal was, to do that, and he's successful. And so now Descartes is going to start building. Now he's going to ask himself, okay, what's my point of Archimedes? Archimedes was this ancient Greek uh, scientist who said, if you give me the right spot, you give me the right point, then I'll be able to move the globe if I have that right point. This is what Descartes is looking for. He wants that right. He needs the foundation. He needs that first piece of knowledge that he can know with absolute certainty. That's going to be his point of Archimedes, because that once he has that piece of knowledge that he knows with absolute certainty, then he could build everything else on it. Then he could build the rest of his philosophy, his science, and everything else on that point of Archimedes. And he thinks he found it in Meditation 2. Descartes says, "But I was persuaded that there was nothing in all the world, that there was no heaven, no earth, that there were no minds nor any bodies. Was I not then likewise persuaded that I did not exist? Not at all. Of a surety, I myself did exist, since I persuaded myself of something, or merely because I thought of something." So what he's going to say here is the fact that he is persuaded or deceived must mean that he exists, right? Because you cannot be deceived if you don't exist, right? So this is going to be Descartes' point of Archimedes, but we're going to state it a little bit different right now. This point is known as the cogito ergo sum in Latin, which is, the argument is this: I think, therefore I am. So that's going to be the real point of Archimedes right there, is the fact that Descartes thinks. He thinks, therefore you must exist, right? I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I exist. The first argument I gave is just a variation, which I'm deceived, therefore I must exist if I'm being deceived. Okay? So the one that you should know, the more important one, the more famous one, is the cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Okay? So that's going to be his point of Archimedes. And I mean, think about it for a little bit. I think before, I mean, do you see anything wrong with this argument? I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I exist. I mean, do you need that argument to know whether you exist or not? You need to hear that argument to know that you exist? Of course not. You know you exist. What Aristotle would say is, you don't need to prove you exist. It is immediately self-evident. That stuff doesn't require proof. Okay? Descartes doesn't buy that. All right? So Descartes doesn't buy the common sense arguments of Aristotle. Okay? And so Descartes has this argument here: I think, therefore I exist, or I think, therefore I am. But again, going back to that argument, I mean, what do you think about this argument? I think, therefore I am. You didn't notice anything strange about it? I mean, what could be a critique of this argument? I think, therefore I am. I think, therefore I exist. I mean, what's being assumed in that first premise? I think. Now, if you say I think, aren't you assuming that you exist? Don't you have to exist? Even saying I, is an assumption of existence here. Right? So the argument has faults. We could just put it that way. And a lot of people that are still following the common sense philosophy of Aristotle are going to point this out to Descartes. Okay? But that's his point of Archimedes. And so Descartes, moving on also in Meditation 2, he's just going to go on further to deny the philosophy of Aristotle. You're going to see it with the rational animal. Descartes, because rational animal, Aristotle defined a human being as a rational animal. And what Descartes is going to say is that he doesn't even know what these terms mean. Okay? He says, but I do not yet know clearly enough what I am. Who am I certain that I am? And hence, I must be careful to see if I do not imprudently take some other object in place of myself. So Descartes, what Descartes is doing now is he's going to try to give a definition of a human being. Because that's one of the most important definitions you can give. Okay? And since he has thrown out Aristotle, now he is, because Aristotle had defined a human being as a rational animal. And that gives respect to human beings. It separates human beings from the rest of the animals and plants. And so now Descartes is stuck with the task. He has to give a definition of what a human being is. And it's not going to be a rational animal, because the definition of human being as a rational animal is all based on the idea that you could trust your senses. And Descartes doesn't at this point. And so for now, all that he's going to say that he is a thinking thing. All right, this is also in Meditation 2. He says, I am, however, a real thing and really exist, but what thing? I have answered, a thing which thinks. So all he knows right now is I'm something that thinks. Because he doesn't even know he has a body. He doesn't think that he could know he has a body because he can't trust his senses. So he puts his hand in front of his face. He's like, I can't know I have this. Right? So he's a thinking thing. And so what Descartes is going to, he's going to go further, and Descartes' going to eventually give a definition of God. I mean, not a definition, but an argument for the existence of God. And what this is going to do, because Descartes, the reason why we call him the first modern philosopher, okay, is because he is throwing away this idea that you can trust your sense experience. And what Descartes is saying is that knowledge doesn't come from you looking at the tree over there, which is outside of you. Knowledge comes from inside your mind. I think, therefore I am. See, Descartes is just contemplating in his mind, right? So Descartes is saying the mind is where the knowledge comes from, not the sense experience. You can't trust your senses, right? Aristotle would say, well, you know what? We get knowledge because we look at a tree and then we form a concept of the tree. This is how we get knowledge. That's what Aristotle would say, but not Descartes. Can't trust the senses. But Descartes eventually wants to get the senses back. Okay? And so he does that by giving an argument for the existence of God. That's what he's going to do. He gives an argument for the existence of God, and that allows him to get rid of that evil demon argument. The evil genius. Remember, the evil genius argument was meant to doubt mathematics. And so when Descartes gives the argument for the existence of God, and it's a good God that would not let him be deceived. And so Descartes at that point gets back the idea that he knows math. And then after that, Descartes gives another argument that shows that he can know sense objects. Aristotle would have never gave an argument that he could know sense objects because they're right in front of your face. You don't need to give an argument for that. But because Descartes has doubted it, Descartes has to give an argument that sense objects exist. And what's going to happen, you got to understand this. From this point on, all of the modern philosophers who are in the mold of Descartes, in other words, most of the modern philosophers, the philosophers after Descartes, the ones who deny Aristotle, they will also accept the doubt of Descartes. The doubt that Descartes gives in the beginning, when I started this in meditation 1, that doubt by which Descartes denies that he knows anything, right? And then he doubts sense experience. This is called hyperbolic doubt, okay? Hyperbole, it's hyperbolic, it's extreme. This is true philosophic doubt right here, or philosophical skepticism, okay? This isn't normal skepticism. This isn't normal doubt. It is normal if somebody calls you on the phone and they say, "Hey, you just won a car. You give me your credit card number and then you can come pick it up." That's normal that you're skeptical and you doubt that. Okay? That's perfectly fine for you to do that. All right? That's not the type of doubt or skepticism that we're talking about here. We're talking about doubting that your hand is in front of your face. Okay? That's the type of doubt and skepticism we're talking about here. All the philosophers that come after Descartes, I shouldn't say all, but the majority of them, they are going to accept this hyperbolic doubt of Descartes. Okay? That's going to be, and a lot of them won't tell you that. Like, we're going to go over modern philosophers, and they won't tell you that they are accepting the hyperbolic doubt of Descartes. They just accept it. Okay? So that is going to be the legacy of Descartes, because the modern philosophers that come after Descartes, they're going to throw away his arguments for God's existence. They're going to throw them because they're not that good. And so they're just going to get rid of them. And once you get rid of Descartes' argument for the existence of God, you get rid of the idea that you can know mathematics and sense experience. And so the philosophers that come after Descartes, this is his legacy, they're going to get rid of those arguments for God's existence and all that stuff, but they're going to keep that hyperbolic doubt that Descartes presented in that dream argument and in some of the other arguments. Okay, and those are from all these arguments are given through the meditations.